constructing and conducting interviews so that we can get ahead with our research projects. So a successful interviewer is, and at this point in time, I would love if you all will be taking notes in your notebook that I asked you to get or find or borrow or recover. So knowledgeable, when we say knowledgeable, we mean that even though the point of the interview is for you to find out about this person or this thing that you are studying, you have to go into the interview knowing things. So if you pay attention really to when people go to Oprah, or if they, you all know who Oprah is? I would hope you all know who Oprah is, even though they're a little young. Where did chat go? Okay, nobody is even talking. Yeah. I would hope you all know who Oprah is, or even just a radio interview or a television interview or anything like that. You go into it knowing things about the person or the topic that you're trying to find out about. Yeah, we know Oprah, God bless. So you will hear the interviewer telling the person things about themselves. They'll say, well, I know that you would have worked on this project, or I know that you would have done this, or done that. Can you talk to us about this? So the interviewer knows what they're coming to find out, and they also know a bit about the topic. What they're trying to do is get a first-hand perspective to teach them a little bit more. Another aspect of this, which I forgot to put in the PowerPoint, is doing pilot interviews. So you write that down in your book, pilot, as in like pilot who drives a plane, which is basically a test interview, which you all are going to be doing as well with each other. So this makes sure that your questions work, that they derive the right answers, that they're not going to confuse the interviewee, and so on and so on and so forth. So all of that is part of being knowledgeable. Now, a successful interviewer is also open. So meaning that even though you are going to go into the interview with a rubric, with a set of questions that you want to find out to follow your research topic, you're still open in that if the person starts talking about something that isn't necessarily down the line of what you expected to talk about, you're not going to cut them off and say, no, I didn't come here to find out about that. I come to find out about this, that, the other. So you are open to new types of knowledge, to whatever your interviewee is bringing to the table. And it gets difficult sometimes because you end up with interviewees who stray and all kind of tralala. But it's all about being responsive, so being flexible. A successful interviewer is also structuring. So it means that you give structure in the sense that you open it up with, and I hope you all are taking notes, you open it up with an icebreaker to just establish that good connection between you and the interviewee, and you guide them along the different topics so that they're not lost at any point in time. And I'm sure you all would have had experiences in class where you feel sometimes the teacher just kind of just all over the place, and you lost and everybody lost and nothing could get done. So a successful interviewer is structuring, as in you're going to give them the beginning, not rigid. So you're going to give them the beginning, the middle, and the end. In the end, you're going to round it off. You're going to, make them feel happy that you interviewed them, thank them, things like that. You're going to guide the interviewee through the different topics that you want to cover. So you're going to go from one thing to the next and say, good, thank you very much. I also want to talk a little bit about this, or one of the reasons I chose to interview is this, and so on and so on and so forth. Remember, if you all have questions at any point in time, just take off your mic and cut me off, or type it in the chat, right? A successful interviewer is clear. So this is about asking simple, easy, short questions with no set of terms and flowers and tralala that's going to confuse anybody, because the point of you being there is that you want to elicit information from the person. You're not there to teach them, and you're not there to confuse them. They might confuse you, but that's fine because you choose to interview them, right? They are staring, and this is same as structuring and knowledgeable. You know what you want. You know what you come to find out, so that you and the interviewee not going to end up talking about, oh, where have the best bubbles in Trinidad, whether it's north or south, right? A successful interviewer is also remembering. So that's about really being attentive and paying attention to what the person has told you already, and being able to bring that back later down the line. So you'll be able to say things like, good, I remember initially you spoke about this thing. Is it possible that that this is linked to this next thing that you just said? So you gotta pay attention to what the person is saying, right? And then also interpreting. So if they say something that you don't particularly understand, you take that and make something out of it and get them to clarify it. Or when I say interpreting, it means that you have the power to be critical about whatever they're saying. And again, the chat is, somebody is chatting. Why are you showing it like that? 1 second. I'll answer that in a sec. Yeah, so you're interpreting what the person is saying. They're not just gonna ask them a question. So, how did you get into theater? And they answer you, and you say, okay, nice. You know, you need to be active and take something and make it out of that. So if you pick up on something, you say, okay, I noticed that you said whatever, and you take that and go with it. And also balanced. So it means you don't talk too much because it's not a monologue, and you don't talk too little because it's not a monologue again. If you talk too little, you're going to make the person feel as though you're either not understanding what they're saying or they're answering your questions wrong or something like that. If you talk too much, they're going to be like, so what is the point of this? Who is the interviewee here, right? So balanced in being responsive, but also not being overbearing, right? Oh, I did not press that. It really depends. That's another thing. You shouldn't really, I think if you were interviewing somebody, my voice is real annoying, boy. If you're interviewing somebody who you genuinely are interested in, or a topic that you're interested in, it shouldn't really be much of a concern how long the interview goes on for, because that's just more material for you to use and material for you to learn from, even if you don't include it in your SBA. So generally, a short interview could be about half an hour. But interviews could go on for much longer, and it's fine if they go on for much longer. Because what you're going to be doing is recording your interview so that you don't have to take notes or transcribe while it's going on. So that's another word of the day that you're going to write in your notebooks. It's transcribe. I'm going to type it. Transcribe. You all know I like vocabulary lessons. And we also learn about pilot interview. A pilot interview is a test interview. A pilot of anything is a test. But when you do your interviews, you're going to record it, whether it's on your phone or your laptop or whatever. Make sure it is recording. And then afterwards, you are literally going to write down. You're going to listen to it over and write down everything that was said. All the questions and all the responses. So yeah, it could, I would generally say your interview should be about an hour long, but I would also say not to time it. I would just say to enjoy it and go along with them. Sorry for typing in caps. That was quite aggressive, wasn't it? Ooh. I think I'm okay. Hey, what's going on here with my slide? No problem. How my slide looking like that? See, look. There we go. So an interview is a conversation. Let me move this from here. Hide it. No, that's not what I meant. Okay. Oh God. Right. So an interview is a conversation. One thing that annoys me a lot is cases where people take things a little bit too seriously. When I say they take it too seriously, they treat it as if it's this very formal encounter and you have to use a set of big words and read and talk. No, an interview is a conversation. Even if the person you're interviewing might be a little bit intimidating, I guess you could say. Think about it as you and this person just sitting down over a cup of Milo and discussing things. So, as I was telling Rachel just now, relax, don't rush. That word is supposed to be rigid. I don't know where the D went. But don't be too formal and don't be too rigid. So don't read the questions offhand because you know what you're coming to ask the person. So just talk to them as if they are a person, right? Don't sound like a robot. Be engaged, as I was saying. So keep up with the person, you know, body language. You're nodding, you're saying yes, okay, laugh. If the person tell a joke, it's okay to laugh, you know. In normal conversation, if somebody tells you something, if you could laugh, and I know you'll laugh at me all the time because I am just so funny. Follow the respondents, not the interview guide. So we're going to be working a lot on formulating your questions, but there are always going to be questions that should occur to you in the moment. And there are also going to be questions that, because based off of what the person says, they might say something and that sparks your interest and you want to find out more about that. But just because it's not in the interview guide doesn't mean you're not going to ask the question. You have to be, you know, responsive. So you follow the person and follow the track that they are going along. And we are theater people, so we should know about improvisation. And if you lose a line up in the beginning of the play, you pull it back down in the end, right? So follow the respondents. Of course, they're still going to ask the questions that you came to find out, but don't force it. Active listening, you know, all the things that y'all don't give me. That's really interesting. Wow, if they say something, you repeat it back. That is the classic pageant question segment thing. You know, when you're in a pageant and they say, so Miss San Fernando, what do you think is the biggest issue facing women today? And she says, thank you for the question. I think the biggest issue facing women today is da, 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 right? So repeating back, so you prove to them that you're paying attention, that you're an attentive listener. You know, tell me more about that. Things like that to make the person feel as though you're engaging with them and they're not just talking to a, you know, Siri or something. And never answer a question for the respondent. This doesn't count as much because you're going to be interviewing people who know what they're about and they are passionate about what they're talking about. So, hopefully you wouldn't find a circumstance where you ask somebody a question and they can't find an answer for it. But if that's the case, please don't answer it for them because you are the interviewer, not the interviewee, right? Good. So this is what we're going to be working on today. Developing interview questions. First thing is, keep it simple. Yes, sometimes you're going to have compound questions. You're going to say, we'll say, have you ever had to ask for, oh, we have 10 minutes left. You don't know what to do, just come back. Have you ever asked for help in terms of so by so by so? And if so, why did you? Or how was your experience with that? So that's a compound question. It's two questions in one. But don't come and bratata and bring a big long quote for the person and ask them a big complicated question with a set of terms that's going to confuse them. Keep it simple. And if you want to find out several bits of information, find it out in different questions, not in one big question where the person had to come and confuse you. The best questions elicit long answers. So the question might be short, it might be a little bit long, but the important part is that you're not asking a question that is going to give you a one-word answer, because that is not doing anything for you whatsoever. Now, this is what we want to talk about mainly today, the rationale, which, now this little thing here, you can't, oh, there's my mouse. This thing here, you're seeing my screen, right? As always, why do I always do this? I always share the screen and then ask a billion years after we all could see it. Right. So this is from the syllabus directly. This is from the mark scheme. No, okay, first, before I talk about that. Your rationale is the reason why you choose this person, why you choose to interview them. And in a slide later on, it shows what you need to justify, what you need to state in your rationale. Now, so being completely honest, right? So I did give you all a list. Well, the people who are in the Ed Moodle class, I did give you all a list. But Miss make a little bit of a mistake, right? Because Miss was really looking at all of the chats. Ria, did you mean to send me that privately? Because it's showing up on the screen now for everybody to see. Should the dialects or the way you speak to the person or respond be fully formal? Example, if I ask something and I'm impressed genuinely, do I?
Sorry about that, sir. I asked the question before, but I was typing kind of long because my hand in a bandage. So sorry about that. Yeah, answer the question right after.
Put on your mic and ask. Why is your hand in a bandage?
An accident in the move Laventil area last week. I'm not injured. That to that point is just some serious, well, some bruises.
Oh, okay. Do you still want to ask a question?
No, miss, not really, because you already answered.
Okay.
I was just asking if you have to be fully formal with the person.
No. Yeah. No. Please don't. That is very uncomfortable. When somebody is talking, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Because the way I talk to y'all is not that formal. Sometimes, most of the time, and I would like to believe that you'll understand me. But yeah, that's a big mistake that people use. They take it too seriously. Don't do that. You have to make them feel comfortable with you, even though you will probably be much younger than them, so they won't really feel uncomfortable. But you know, right? So your rationale. Now, I was talking about how Miss made a little bit of a mistake. So you all know I'm new to the teaching thing and whatever. So I mixed up, it's just slightly mixed up the Form 6 syllabus and the Form 5 syllabus. Now, the Form 6 syllabus allows them to study basically anybody who's a creative or cultural entrepreneur, a practitioner. However, when I really clarified with the Form 5 syllabus, they specify that it must be somebody who has contributed to theater or dance, which means that sadly, some of the, now, okay, so this is the thing about life in general, about school, about the literature, definitely English B. This is my advice to you. Anything could work once you could justify it. Once you could justify why you made a choice, it can work. So if you can really look at the syllabus requirements for your rationale and justify why you chose this person. So let me pinpoint some people in particular. Janisa would have chosen Kyle Phillips, who is a cultural entrepreneur by all means. He produces music, mostly soca, but he produces. By the way, guys, if you all know, this is just, let me stop recording for a minute here. Recording. So, Janisa would have chosen Kyle Phillips, who produces music. And that is all fine and well, and he is a cultural practitioner. However, Kyle would not have actively contributed to theater or dance. So when we talk about theater, we're talking about music, drama, and dance. It's performing arts, basically. So some of you, unless you could really justify, unless your rationale really comes good, because there are marks for that as well, unless you could really justify why you would have chosen this person to interview for a theater arts project, I suspect that some of you will have to revise your choices. And that is entirely my fault. And I apologize for maybe leading you all on a little bit or getting you all excited. But some of these choices, it was really that I didn't watch the syllabus good enough at first. I was mixing it up with the Form 6 syllabus. But for yours, the person must have contributed in some way to theater or dance. It's not good enough for them to just be involved in the arts, right? So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me, come to me directly, personally, or you could always go back on the list. And I really recommend that you'll go back on the list and look at the different, look at the different people, go on Mako, the Instagram, and you might find out something interesting about them. Google them, and by next week, or they will pick, unless you come up with a really good rationale, which you're going to do today anyway. So, right. Your rationale is going to frame your entire interview, and it's going to frame your entire project. Remember, I told you that this is quite a small project. It's 500 words, I think, which is not much at all. So you're going to have a lot of information that you're not necessarily going to be able to include in the whatever. But you know what? I still remember my theater arts interview, and that was something very inspiring for me up until now. Also on that note, if you go in the Edmodo folder section, there is a sample of there's a sample project, which shows you how it would, but this is an old one with the old syllabus, but it shows you how the project might look, how the interview questions will be laid out, and all that, but we know everything is in the chat, right? Again, if you all have questions at any point in time, just stop me and ask. So, but we're talking right now about developing interview questions. This is from the syllabus. 8 marks for your presentation and findings, but 4 marks for your interview. Now, as I said, you will interview them, then you'll transcribe it, which you'll also include in your, what is the word? Yeah, appendices. You'll include that in your appendices. And the person who is marking it, other than me, is going to be able to see what your interview questions will. Now there are 4 whole marks. That's 4 important marks, 4 easy marks for the use of open-ended questions which demonstrate prior knowledge of subject. This is what we're talking about. You have to come to your interview knowing things and knowing what you want to come out with. And open-ended questions, meaning that your questions elicit long responses. It's not a question that is not a yes or no. Okay, so that's 4 easy marks for having open-ended questions. Do not rob yourself of the 4 easiest marks in the whole project, right? Because you all know, some of you might not do too well in exams, and that's absolutely fine. You just get nervous, you just forget, your brain is blank out, whatever, anything. Don't lose 4 easy marks in the SBA because you did not have open-ended questions, and also don't set yourself up for a bad interview, right? And then you'll get 3 marks if you have questions that are open-ended, but they show no prior knowledge of the subject. Why would we do that? Why would we get 3 marks when we could get 4? You'll get 2 marks if you have only 1 or 2 questions that are open-ended, but most are closed. Why would we do that? Why would we get 2 marks when we could get 4? Aim for 4 marks, right? And we ain't even looking at 1 and 0 because I ain't going through that at all. At all. Note what, am I recording? Yes. Okay. So note well, candidates must clearly show how they conducted the interview. More or less, everybody is going to be conducting their interview on Zoom or on a phone or on Skype or on the internet or something like that. If push comes to shove and your person is really very busy, I have conducted interviews on WhatsApp, but using voice notes. I have done that before and it has worked well. If you're, all right, thanks, Zoom. If you're comfortable doing that, then do that, but probably not as your first, not as your very first method. do it probably as a last resort. If the person really is busy and they I don't know, they work part-time as a security guard or something, and they, you know, they want to do the interview while they're at work, but they can't talk on the phone for a full hour, then you can do it over WhatsApp, but let them use voice notes so that you can transcribe it. And then, of course, you have to make it look as though you did an actual interview, right? So when CXC says that you must clearly show how you conducted the interview, if it's that you did a Zoom interview, you're going to have to take a screenshot and put that in your appendices, or you're going to have to take a screenshot to the chat and the voice notes and the emails that you sent to invite the person, and so on and so on and so forth. Now, no, I'll talk about that after. The exciting news that I have might not be very exciting to you, but it's very exciting to me. So, types of questions. Let me move this from here. So you have direct questions, obviously. For example, how have you been dealing with the pandemic as a dance professional? That's a direct question. You cannot go wrong. Then you have indirect questions, which you can't be too indirect, but you will follow up an indirect question with a direct question. So an indirect question might be something like, how do people normally get into this field of work? It's not direct because you're not specifically asking that person about how they got into that field of work just yet. But of course, you're interviewing this person because you want to find out about their experience. So you're going to follow it up with, is this how you managed to become a singer? Yeah, and the person might say, well, yes, or well, no, because my family was involved in it, so yada, yada, yada. So we follow up indirect questions with direct questions. And of course, we want open-ended questions right through to get our 4 marks for that, right? So then you have structuring questions. Remember, I told you a successful interviewer is structuring. So you might say something like, I want to move on to talk a little bit about this. Or, my reason for choosing you was this. So I want to find out from you X, Y, Z. So, you're giving a little bit of structure and guiding the person, or, hold their hand and carry them along the journey with you. Then you have follow-up questions, which also has to do with what I was saying about being attentive, paying attention to what the person is saying so that you could respond to it. You might have a follow-up question like, you mentioned X, Y, Z. How does this come into play when blah, 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 blah? Or can you talk a little bit more about that thing that you said about da, 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 da? Or you might say, I think it's funny how you mentioned da, 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 because I was really thinking da, 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 da. But did you know that I always thought so by so by so? I didn't know that what you just said was true. And so on and so on and so forth. Then you also have specifying questions, which is where, as I said, if they say something that you don't particularly understand, or if they say something that you want to get more information about because you sit down there thinking, hey, boy, this is going to sound good in my research paper. Let me get a quote. Let me get a direct quotation about this. So you'll say, when you say whatever they said, do you mean that blah, 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 blah. And if before they spoke and said, well, I made so by so choices, then you might specify and say, how did your family feel about that choice that you made? And so on and so forth. And then quite similar would be interpreting questions. So they say one thing and you take it and say, are you suggesting that there are artists willing to make this type of music, but the local market isn't as interested as they are in other genres? So obviously the person would have said something. They may not have said it directly, but you want to specify, because that's what journalists do. That's what reporters do, right? They take something that you said and they turn it into a quotation. You may not have said it directly like that, but it end up as a headline on the newspaper, because they clarify that and then turn that into a quote that you may not necessarily have wanted to say, but it's fine. It's all for research purposes. So you take that and you interpret it, and you don't twist it. You take what the person says at not necessarily at face value, but you take what the person says and you just, you know, show them that you have a brain and you could think properly and you're in Form 5 and you're going to a convent and, you know, you could interpret knowledge and so on and so forth. Anybody have any questions before I move on to talk about the exciting news? I don't think you're going to find it as exciting as I do. Anybody have any questions for me? Anything they want to interject and say so that it's, you know, there's balance in this class and it's not just me rambling on and on. Yeah, question. Yay. No question. Thank you for responding, Larissa. Right. What's my next slide? Okay. Why my presentation doing this? Okay. Before we go into developing interview questions, right? Hold on, are we that side? Yeah. So before we go into developing interview questions, I just want to say, so this Friday afternoon, you know, bars close and things, so they can't go nowhere and drink because that is what my Form 5s usually do on a Friday afternoon. Instead of going by the bar and drinking, what y'all are going to do at 1:30, I am going to be interviewing with my Form 6s. I'm going to be interviewing a surprise guest from the creative industry. So my diligent Form 5s who don't have any classes going on at that point in time, so put this on your calendar right now, write it in your diary, because I would like you to be there on Zoom and be there on time for this interview so that you could get a little bit of an idea how an interview with a cultural practitioner might go. The person I'm interviewing is actually somebody that one of you all picked for your project. So lucky them. But the topic that I'm going to be interviewing them about doesn't really have to do with what you're going to ask for this one anyway. So that being said, I will see you all at 1:30 this Friday. What's the date this Friday? Today is the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. The 18th, Friday the 18th of September at 1:30 p.m. on Zoom. You all are going to sit in with my Form 6s and listen to me interview one of my good friends who is a cultural entrepreneur. He does very, very many things. And then after I'm finished interview, so you are going to take notes as well and get a sense of how an interview might run. And then at the end, you will also have a chance to ask the person questions if you so desire. And it just so happened, well, I will confirm with you all later in the week, you know, just in case something comes up and the session doesn't run this Friday again. But I do want you all to sit in and, you know, get a little feel about how an interview on Zoom particularly might run. Any questions, queries, comments, or concerns about that? Nobody have no wedding to go on Friday. Nobody, you know, no fees to shell. Nobody have to go to work, nothing like that. Friday, 1:30, see you all on Zoom. It will most likely be the same link, but I'll send the link over in the chat in any case. If you cannot attend for some reason or the other, don't do that. As in, don't not attend. Make sure you could attend. But if you can't, just send a message now and let me know. But I will see you all on Friday at 1:30 on Zoom. Right, and it will be an hour long. Supposed to be an hour long, but if it goes on longer, what can I say? Right, so let's talk a little bit about actually developing interview questions. First thing you do is you write down your broader research objectives, which in this case would be your rationale. Why have I chosen to interview Harmony Farrell? Why have I chosen to interview Dylan Matheson? Why have I chosen to interview Curtis Gross? Right? and you write down why you chose this person and what you want to find out. Boom. Number 2, you word the questions so that the interviewee wants to answer as completely as possible. You don't box them in. You don't limit them. You don't say, you know, you're going to word a question in such a way that you only elicit certain answers. You want to find out everything, right? There are no, I mean, that's a lie. There aren't any stupid questions. But Rachel, ask a question and you can take off your mic. Feel free to ask. I don't like that.
Miss, I feel like my question was kind of stupid because I was gonna ask if the like rating of the questions all have to be PG.
PG?
Like in your wording, like how you speak.
You mean you ask them if you could cuss in the interview?
If you're like retelling something or a play or a quote, and if it has like a curse word in it, you're not allowed to say it. Because
Rachel, why are you looking for quotes with curse words in there?
Well,
I think it's very unlikely. But considering that, you know, you're representing the school and so on, it would be in your best interest to keep it PG. But I also can't imagine that anything would come up in an interview that would not be PG.
or like controversial. Well, no, never mind. Thank you.
I haven't decided whether I am going to eavesdrop on your interviews yet. So whether I want to supervise them and, you know, come and sit down on and, you know, come in all the interviews with you. If I connect you to the person, I most likely will, just to macro. But I haven't really decided whether I'm going to leave you all to do it on your own yet. But we'll see how that goes. Okay, you ask how questions rather than why questions. Of course, there's space for why questions. You ask them, why did you choose to become a dancer? But the question that you're going to get more information out of is the questions like, how did you become a dancer? Which is basically the same thing, but you're going to get a little bit more information. You develop probes that are going to elicit more things for key questions. So this is having to do with, of course, you have your rationale, you have your objectives, you know what you're coming to find out, whether it is that you're coming to find out is calypso, or what is the experience of a female calypsonian. That could be your objective, that could be your overarching research objective, or it might be something like, how has this professional dancer responded to the changes in COVID-19, in the creative industry in COVID-19? That might be a research objective. And of course, if they start talking about that, you have to probe them to get more information about your particular objectives. Of course, you could find out, you know, macro and mind the business and find out whatever you want to find out, but always pay attention to your rationale and your research objectives as well. Wow, this hour passed fast, boy. Think about the logical flow of the interview. So think about what topic should come first, what should come second, what should come third, what should come last. Obviously, and as Rachel was very rightly asking, if you want to ask something controversial, you don't go and ask it in the beginning of the interview and make the person feel uncomfortable. You'll put it down at the end. And you don't go and ask about COVID-19 now, and then coming down to the end of the interview, you ask them how they got into the arts. You know, you think about the logical flow. How would it make sense for this interview to go from one topic to the next? And then the last question should provide some kind of closure, round off the topic. It could be some, I always like to ask, what is one piece of advice you would give to a young person who wants to follow in your footsteps or something like that? Right. So we're looking at the syllabus. By the way, if anybody has theater arts past papers, feel free to share it with the class, please. Because, I mean, I could buy it. I could buy it on the CXC store, but I don't really feel like buying it because I feel like Fireball Babylon, you know, who is them to charge for past papers? I find that very ridiculous. I have some, which I think I shared with you all. I have up until 2015, but I old. So I don't have from 2016, I maybe have 2016. I don't have 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So if you're on 20, I don't think we have 20. But if you all have theater arts past papers, I mean, Shana, please. So Miss don't have to spend money because I don't get paid for vacation and things. Anyway, so we're looking at the syllabus. This is what they say about the conclusion. What is the point of all of this? Yes, you interview a person, you do your research on Google, you find out this about them, you take a picture with them, they send you a picture of them when they was young, all of that jazz. And your conclusion, as requested by CXC, candidates are expected to draw conclusions from the information that is gathered about the cultural form, the arts organization, performing company or practitioner. Most of you all chose practitioners, but as I said, we might have to do some picking over because Miss made a mistake. Oh, Seda is with us. Don't worry, Seda, I actually recorded the class this time. Right. And you must be able to describe the impact of the subject's contribution on the performing arts in their territory and or in the wider Caribbean. So this is what I was saying. If you can't do that, if you cannot see yourself being able to justify what has this person done for the performing arts in Trinidad or in the wider Caribbean, or what has this place contributed, or this whatever you choose, then you might have to rethink your choice. Oh, see. Great. And in the syllabus, they also ask for supporting materials. So this is as simple as telling the person, so these may include photographs, newspaper clippings, significant objects. Please, let's not do objects now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to be handling somebody's sweaty jersey from some performance that they do back in. Let's not do that, okay? Let's stick with soft copy, hard soft copy. Photographs, newspaper clippings, signaling parts of costumes and other artifacts. Let's not do that, okay? Let's stick to pictures and videos. Each item must be labeled. Here are 3 examples that would be acceptable. This is a picture of this woman. This is part, we're not doing costume. This videotape shows good, going on and on and on. So, and one thing that I must mention, and this is my, as I told you all, my objective for this term, which is why I say, if all in all you have past papers, if you know you have a cousin who do theater arts and they write it this year, go and email the cousin and find out if they have past papers, so Miss Farrell don't have to go and spend $8 US on past papers that she could get for free, right? So you will have to do this in your for your research paper, but it also comes up in exam papers. So when you have to write your exam, Lord alone knows when that is, you might actually get a question about your interviews and your research project. So this was at some year, long time ago. Name one theater arts practitioner that you have studied and identify his or her expertise in the areas of dance, drama, or stagecraft. So this is where we're going to have to be focusing. Again, you might have to rethink your choices. Dance, drama, or stagecraft. That's where your people must be, sit focused. Then that was 2 marks. For the practitioner identified in above, describe 2 features of his or her work which you found to be appealing. And that's your rationale right there. And C, explain 2 ways in which this person has helped you to appreciate dance or drama in theater. All of this is bluffing. Watch. 10 easy marks. And then everybody get 1s and your parents glad. And they say, well, it's a good thing I need to choose theater to let you get a 1 in it. And they go and tell all their friends and say, why you know somebody so yeah, 1 in theater? How to get this thing? All of that, right? 10 easy marks. And this is in an exam paper. So it's not just that you're going to be doing the research for the project alone, but it also comes up in exam papers. So great. That's all for my presentation today. Bye.